Alright, hello Ytac. I have right here for us what we're going to start on for this next unit. The class today was not live because no one showed up. They're all working on other stuff, so that's perfectly fine. Part of what we want this to be is accessible, and that's why I'm recording this video, so that you can watch this at your own time when you're ready. So, if you couldn't tell, this next unit that we're going to cover is on C++. Now before I get into it, I am using replit.com again, and this is what I see when I instantly boot up. I have this include, and it has this main, and it has a little bit of text here, and what it does is just prints out hello world. Isn't that nice? Before I get into actually coding with some of this, I'm going to explain why I chose to do C++. And that it's pretty simple. Most of the languages that you are going to know, from what I've my research, from what I've seen, from what I've been told, a lot of colleges will have you use Java and Python and C++ or C Sharp. So C++ is a very, very widely used language. It's the parent of Python, and C++ comes from the language C, and Python comes from C++. So, what types of things use C++? Well, if you remember from our Arduino unit, Arduino boards use C++, and knowing that is very useful in that sense. Also, the Unreal Engine uses C++. If you've ever done any game making for Ytac in there, you can see that most of the time you just use the blueprints, which are a drag and drop sort of abstract system. But if you can use C++ if you wanted to code that, and that's what a lot of things are. Some games, for example, that are used in C++ are like GTA 5. Modders who make mods for the game will do that in C++, and I will include in the Discord the link to a Twitch stream of my personal favorite content creator who is making mods in GTA 5. It is not an official resource, I'll say, but is a very entertaining way to learn an actual application of this language. So C++, very useful, something that is going to be coming in very handy. If you remember what our other topics where we've had are Python with cryptography, and that's sort of the start of like problem solving with creative solutions, as well as cybersecurity. We've had our bit on Arduino, which is like particle boards and physical, mechanical aspect of the computer science. We had our sheets subject, which had some financial and just data organization and computation. So C++ is leaning in a little bit to the game design aspect of it. I am not going to have a final project in this that is going to be make a game using C++, because that just would be part of Unreal Engine. But I want hopefully to be able to get to the point that you could do something in C++. Maybe Ytac Summer Cohort rolls around and you're going to use C++ for some part of it. But without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started here. We have touched a little bit of C++ in this class with the Arduino unit, but it wasn't very much, and it was mostly just doing actions with sensors and actuators. So we're going to go into a little bit more of a similar vein that you would do in a standard programming aspect. I'm going to go ahead and start with just some of the syntax differences from what we're used to. Every line that is conclusive and contains itself will end in that semicolon. Things like for loops and if conditionals will not, but things like naming variables, getting inputs, that type of stuff will end with a semicolon. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and get started here and just kind of walk through a simple type of problem solving script here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this hello world. If you saw, I'm going to run this one more time just so you can see. All it does is it prints hello world. So I'm going to remove this, but I am still going to keep this std : C out. That is just a way to determine what type of output or input that the system is getting. And instead of saying hello world in this, this will be sort of the input. I'm going to ask the system to enter a number, and I'll put a colon there. I am going to do a \n at the end of that, and that will basically go to a new line. That's essentially what that is doing. So that way it's not just hello world, or for this case, enter a number, and then you enter it right here. It'll say enter a number, it'll go down a space, which is useful for some future stuff that we'll be doing. First thing I'm going to do is initiate this n right here. And what this is doing is it's setting up what our n is right here. I'm going to do, again, the stdcin. And this time, because it's output, we do less than input because this is in. We're going to be doing greater than symbols. Mouth points towards in, points away from out. And this is essentially initializing what our n value is and setting that to an input. And this is going to be using right here what we got from the input. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to initiate a result. I didn't actually say what this program is going to do, so I guess I'll do that right now. What I want this to do is I want to make something, 2 forward slashes is how to do comments. I want to make a program that will take an input from the user and it will do a square of that. Or not a square, it will do a power of that number. Essentially, what we're doing here is user inputs a value n, and this is going to calculate and output n to the power of n. So if we put in 2, it should give us 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. If we put in 3, it should give us 3 to the third power, which is 27. Hopefully that makes sense, and it should be pretty clear what we're doing here. I wanted to use a little bit more, if you want to call it that, a little bit more of an advanced function to start with, because we've already kind of beaten things like addition and that kind of stuff very heavily, and I don't really see a purpose for that. But you can adapt this code to do things like give you the sums or products of things and help you with number computation. But I want to keep it simple for this first week, especially because people are still working on that Sheets final project. So I'm going to have a for loop here, and I'm going to have our I, which is in this. We're going to start with I is equal to 1. And what it's saying is for I equal to 1 while it's less than or equal to n was our initial number that we start with, it's going to increment itself by that value I. This is essentially to know how much we are going, how far we're going with our power, so we don't just have everything to the first or second or third exponent that actually recognizes what the input is. Now I'm going to indent here. I did not close this with a semicolon because it is having a function on this next line here. And what I want this to do is I want it to take the result, and I'm going to set that result, which is defined here, as the result times n. If I wanted to, that's supposed to be times. If I wanted to, I could just save myself a little bit of time here and say times equals. That is still the same thing. So I'll go ahead and write this off to the side. Result equals result times n is the same thing as result times equals n. Anything with that semicolon there at the end just to have that consistency with the syntax. And that's actually all that we need to have in this for loop. Because what that's going to do is it's going to get our value, and it's just going to take it to that exponential value. And we just have to having a little bit of issue with the indent level. It wasn't quite, it was a half indent, so I'm glad I caught that before I went into it. There we go. So that's just a little something to notice. That was a half indent, and if I was trying to do, I was trying to go back to a full indent, and it wasn't working. But that's an easy fix, as you just saw. I just quickly ran through it. And then I'm going to give it the output of this system, which we do the same std : C out, our chevron type shape, and we're taking a result. That's our output, which was right here. We name that there. This is what determines what our result is by use of the input. I'm going to return 0 here, just return null. And then if I run this, hopefully it should ask me to enter a number. And then after I do, it should tell me what that number to its own power is. So if I say 2, it should give me 4. And there it is, gives me 4. And if I run in 4, it should give me 256, which if I also wanted to, I can just I can verify that and say std C out, and I can just say 4 to the, I'm just going to do 4 to the fourth power. So I'll honestly just do it that way, the most simple way to do an exponent. 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Should just close that, and hopefully that works. First thing it's going to do, though, is actually, before I want that to go, I want this to be before I return that, just in case. I don't know if that would make much of a difference. I'm not very experienced in C, but I'm going to try and put forth the best effort there. And you could see it did kind of clump up, but it is saying 256 and then 256. One way that I could change this to be a little cleaner is at the end of this do the /n. Oh, that has to be inside the quotations, but you can see I have the 252 or 256. I'm sorry, 256. So this is just, this function will now work. We don't need this anymore. And I can put in any value, and it should give me the square, or the, not the square, I'm sorry, its own value to its own exponent. So 10 should give me something very large, and you can see this program will run for whatever you give it. Now I've kind of taken my time explaining this, and it is something that I'm trying to grasp as well as teach. So please excuse me if I'm having some issues. But overall, I'm going to try to do my best with this program and to give this interesting and advanced subject while it's still something that you can do on a beginner level. I will put the assignment for this week in the Discord channel when I upload this video. So thanks for watching, making it to the end, and I'm looking forward to this unit on C++.